Welcome to bLUtalks.
Thank you for that incredible introduction. It really is an honor for me to be here today on this bLUtalks stage here in Edmonton, in the amazing country of Canada. Go Canadians! I feel so proud to be Canadian. So I have an interesting question that I want to ask everyone in the audience today, because these are some of the weird things that I think about in my own head. Have you ever noticed a pattern of the types of people that you manifest and attract into your life? Do you notice that maybe sometimes you get along with certain types of people and yet you don't really get along with other types of people? And have you ever paid attention or even asked yourself why? Like, is there anybody in the audience that's ever noticed that? Yeah, I get along with these types of people, but no, not those? Okay, so I have another question for you. Have you ever noticed, or do you know something about those people that either you get along with or you don't get along with that has something to do with their astrological sun sign? Are there any astrology lovers in the audience today, or is it just me? Oh yes, we have some. Okay, so have you ever noticed in your own sun sign, do you notice, hey, I always get along with Capricorns? People are nodding their heads, right? So for me, I kind of noticed this too, and it really made me pay attention. So today, my wish for all of you sitting in the audience and listening to this talk is to walk away with a new, higher perception of the reasons why we have certain people in our lives that are in our important relationships, because I honestly believe they hold the key to learning about why we are here individually and what we are all here to learn as what I call, as an astrologer, our soul's lesson. And for some people, they call it their purpose. Because this began for me way back in the year of 2000, when I just turned 36 years old, and I had no idea that I would be standing on this stage here today talking about the journey, the tools, the resources, the things that I have learned so that I can empower other people and teach them about these relationships that we have in our lives. Because 23 years ago, I was actually in a very deep, dark place. And I remember sitting in a counselor's office and asking her, why can't I stop crying? What's wrong with me? I don't understand. People have been coming to me for years and I've been able to help them. And all of a sudden, I wake up every day and it's just tears keep flowing. And she looked at me and said, here, this is what I recommend. I recommend that maybe you go see a doctor and see what she has to say. Go check into your family physician. I thought she knew, so off I went to the doctor, and I walked away with a prescription for antidepressants and a name of a free counselor that I could go see in my local little town. And I thought to myself, okay, so this is what my life has resorted to? So I went and filled that prescription, went and called the counselor, booked that appointment. I took that dose of that meds, and within an hour, my frickin' head was spinning even more. My body felt like it was convulsing, and I thought, this isn't gonna work. I'm a mom. I'm here alone most of the time with my 2 kids, running a big house, volunteering in my community, and this is getting worse. Threw out the meds. Thought, okay, well, the next thing I have to do is I'm gonna go see this counselor. So I'm sitting in the counselor's office and she says to me, oh, you got to talk like this, you got to communicate better. And I said to her, I'm doing all that. It's not working. And then my next appointment, she's telling me her problems. And I'm thinking, like, what the heck? I'm coming to you for advice and you're asking me advice? Okay, this chick, it ain't working. But I knew I still had to do something because I was still crying all the time. And I knew I had to figure this out. So I took it upon myself to find a new counselor, and I had to pay out of my own pocket. But I sat down in that woman's office, and within 10 minutes, after asking me a few questions, she said to me, I know exactly what it is. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. I've only been sitting here for 10 minutes. And she said to me, well, based on what you've told me and the questions that I've asked you, she said, you think that you're here because your father just passed. And I said, yeah, that's why I'm crying. And she said, honey, I don't think so. She said, when you describe how you feel after your father's passing and everything you went through, to have him in your arms when he died. She said, that's not why you're crying. You're at peace. You've let him go. He's no longer in pain. And I said, well, what is it? She goes, it's not my job to tell you that. It's your job to figure it out. She says, I think you're going to do what I'm recommending. And I said, what's that? And she goes, 2 things. I'm going to give you a book that I'm going to recommend that you read. And she said, and the second thing is that I'm going to encourage you to do something for yourself for 1 hour every single day. I looked at that woman, I thought, okay, yeah, the book I can understand. I love to read. And I was ready to whip something at that woman. I said to her, how dare you tell me that I need to spend an hour on myself? I looked at her and I said, that ain't gonna happen, lady. And she goes, well, it's what you need. And I said, you have no idea what my life is like. The list goes on. I'm pretty much a single mother, never know where my partner is. I said, I've got all these chores I have to do. I have to volunteer, I have to coordinate. My house is like a hotel. There's people coming and going every friggin' week. It's just never ending. And she goes, that's exactly my point. You don't know how to look after yourself. You're so busy looking after everybody else. She goes, this is what you need to learn. And I said, oh, okay. Maybe she had a point. And she said, what do you think you could handle? If you don't think an hour is going to be in your schedule, what could you do? And I sat there and I said, 10 minutes. I'm going to challenge myself to 10 minutes. She goes, okay, those are your 2 things. And you make sure you come back next week. I want to see what you've done. So I paid her, right, left. But that was a totally different counseling experience from what I've had in the past. So I challenged it. I went to the chapters, had to go to the store and buy that book, grabbed it, brought it home, and I started reading. And I could not believe, literally, that first page, I opened that book and my hair stood up. I was like, holy shit. Here I'm thinking, I'm the only one that has this problem. Nobody understands me. I've been crying for years, but the tears are finally starting to come out. And now my life is in a frickin' book. I was thinking to myself, what's going on? Like, I have felt so alone and isolated for so long. I thought, I got to keep reading. So I kept reading the book. Next day, I'm like, okay, I got to do homework number 2. I mean, I didn't even want to put that book down to go and think about the 10 minutes that I had to do for myself. And I remember standing in the mirror and looking at myself in that bathroom and thinking, well, what am I going to do for 10 minutes? And I thought, when was the last time I painted my toenails? I used to love painting my toenails. It was one thing that kind of gave me a little bit of splash and some color and something I could change all the time. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to force myself. I'm going to sit here on the edge of the big tub that I never sat in, and I'm going to paint my toenails 1 minute at a time. I'm going to do it. So I sat there and I painted the first toenail, and more tears started to come out. And I'm like, I feel so sad. I'm in this big pity party. And you know what? I don't even know I want to be here anymore. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this relationship that's so bad, and I'm so ashamed that it's not working. And I don't know how I'm going to start feeling better. I can't take those meds. I don't know. I don't know if I could do this. I'd be better off just friggin' shooting him. Yeah. This is going to be hard work. I don't know I can do it. And then I started thinking about what I just thought about. And I thought, I'm a kind person. I'm sitting here thinking about shooting my partner because I can't handle what's going on in our relationship. What does that make me? And I knew it wasn't right. And then I thought, no, forget that. I'm checking out. I'm leaving. I'm going to take my own life because I can't handle this and I can't do this alone anymore. I'm tired. It's been too much. It's been overwhelming. And I'm ashamed. Everybody's going to find out the truth. Everybody's going to know what's been going on. And I kept painting those toenails. And somehow the next day, I woke up and I kept reading that book, and I kept reading it some more. And I started reading about people's testimonials and their stories and things they had gone through. And I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to be able to find people that can help me. I don't know why, but I feel like something's going to happen. It was like I was getting these intuitive downloads, and I didn't even know they were intuitive downloads at the time. I didn't even understand what intuition was. I wasn't even really awake yet because I was just starting to wake up and realize that maybe everything that was happening had a bigger reason and a purpose for me, even though I didn't know what that was. And so amazingly enough, as I followed the instructions in that book, things started to happen. It was like magic. And people I'd meet, like literally out of nowhere, I'd be having a conversation with someone. Someone would say, oh, I'm going to introduce you to this person, introduce you to that person. And over time, over the next 10 years, I found people right in my own community that could help me. And they knew exactly what it was I was going through. Even on days where I felt like I had hit another brick wall and I would just keep going, and then bam, somebody would be in my life and they'd be like, hey, I'm going to introduce you to this person. I'm going to introduce you to that person. And it was just like boom, boom, boom. And this is when the magic was actually really occurring. And I didn't know it, that it was happening. And so it took me some time to recover and to get over some of that big, overwhelming emotion that I was experiencing, because that woman was actually right. The truth was, I wasn't suffering because my father had just died. I was suffering because that reality of the fake of, oh, just get married, just have some kids, just be the perfect wife and you'll be happy, right? And I realized that was the lie that I was living. that was the lie that I had to figure out. Because in my journey of healing and recovery, I realized that I needed to look after myself and to find things that made me happy. And one of the things she suggested in one of my weeks of homework was, okay, now you're on this journey, so now we're going to take you over here, and I want to encourage you to do something that's just for you. What do you enjoy doing? And I said to her, I used to love taking courses and classes. She goes, go sign yourself up for something. I'm like, okay. It was like she was giving me permission to love myself. And then she's like, what else did you like to do before that you were not doing now? I played so many sports. When I was younger, I was on every rep team. Go sign up. I went and did that. Everything was just a permission from someone else so that I had to learn how to help myself. And then what also started happening was people would come up to me in my little community and say, man, you look different. What have you been doing? And I'm like, I don't know. They're like, no, there's something different about you. You look different. You look happier. Even though I was going through the grind, even though I had to get out of that relationship, there was still something about me that was blossoming and growing. And other people were starting to notice. And then I started to realize, wait a minute. Now all of these people are coming to me for advice. I'm in this bad relationship. I've got this health problem. I've got that. Can you help me? And I realized, wow, this is amazing to be on the other side of that story. And people are noticing that about me. So my next challenge was what am I going to do about it? And how am I going to help people? And so in the last 23 years, what I have realized that everything that I went through was a process for me to develop a pattern or a system so that I could take all of the knowledge and the tools and the resources that I've been using so that I can now empower other people, and especially women, to help them understand that when they have gone through these difficult and tough relationships, that it was there for a reason. It was there for them to become empowered so that they could go through that trauma and learn something about their own soul, that they are here to learn a specific lesson. And we all had to go through all of that crap so that we can be on the other side, feeling happier, more confident, and feeling as if we now have a purpose. And I realized that is what it's all about. And so the whole journey of going through all this crazy chaos, even though it was difficult and it was rough and it was ugly and people judged me and some people still don't like me, but you know what? I just don't care anymore because that was part of my journey too, right? So now it is a privilege for me to pass down the knowledge of everything that I've gone through in all of my storytelling, in a lot of my speaking and my workshops and my events, because now people can follow me on a regular basis. And what I have done is I've created my own online community. And the best way for people to follow me and to get to know me and to understand some of the 5 steps that I encourage people to use is to connect with me weekly on my podcast called Your Time Matters, where I encourage everyone to pay attention to what's happening to the astrological sky, to learn what's actually happening and triggering these emotions that's bubbling up inside of us, and to recommend the natural remedies that we can use to rebalance our emotions. And of course, I always give a little bit of homework to every single person to encourage them to take the next step into moving forward on their healing journey. So thank you so much for listening to me, and thank you for the bLUtalks community for hosting this fabulous event here in Alberta, Canada. Thank you.